good morning YouTube. On to the next step of the Hawken project, and that was putting in the new sights, especially the rear sight, which needed to be shimmed in. Now, this sight is advertised as being the same dovetail size as a normal CVA. It's advertised for CVA and Traditions, but it was a little loose. Now, how do you fix that? Well, you need to take a piece of what's called shim stock. Okay, this right here is nothing more than a piece of 1/10,000th of an inch metal. You can buy shim stock. Basically, it'll be larger sheets of metal where you cut a piece out with a pair of tin snips and you fit it in place. I will tell you the easier way to do that, because I've never really needed a lot of that metal at a time, is to go out and get yourself a cheap set of feeler gauges like you see online. These are no more than $5-6 and you get a whole bunch of different thicknesses. I'm still using a set of those feeler gauges that I bought probably 8-9 years ago, where I've had to shim various things. I've taken even the thicker ones and making some small springs out of them, some flat springs that have worked great. I wouldn't personally go out and have to buy, because you never know quite what size thickness you're going to need until you actually start working with it. In this case, you see this piece here. It's pretty well cut small enough. What you do is you cut it small enough to fit the dovetail. And if you look, you'll just see underneath the rear sight, you'll see the piece of shim stock. And what you do is you tap that in first. And you get it so that it fits in place and it fits kind of snug. And you make it a little shorter or the same size as the rear sight, so that you really, in this case, unless you really look, you cannot see that piece of shim stock. And it's the same on the other side. Okay, and that's what you want, and it's just enough that this sight fits in just like it was a normal sight now, has the same resistance, so I can adjust it anyway. It's a simple windage only sight. You'll notice this was the original sight right here. And while it's a good sight, it just didn't look like a traditional rear sight on a Hawken. And what CVA used to do, and Traditions used to do, or Traditions no longer does, is they put in a little dovetail like that, and there's a set screw in the middle, and that locks that all in place. And that also gave you a dovetail. The new ones are pretty much, I believe, like the Thompson Centers, they have 2 holes. And they're screwing. There is no dovetail that is milled into the rear, into the barrel. I've seen that with the Traditions gun. That was my big complaint, that they should have left that so that if you wanted to, you could put in that sight. So once I saw that I could do this, I said, it needs really traditional sights. So there's the rear sight, and for anybody looking at it, they think, when you see this opening here, well, he's got the sight on backwards. No. That is the front of the sight. That notch is to allow light to come in to give you a better sight picture. And we'll move on to the front sight. And I've had guys tell me, well, the sight's on backwards. No, it's not. And how I know is I've looked at original guns. And I've got it filed down some, because that sight was much taller, which is what you want. You want it so that you have to file it down so you can adjust it better. It's a little taller right now than the rear sight completely, which is fine. I'll adjust it while I'm shooting. And that was fairly simple. And the best part is, between the front and the rear sights, I got these from Track of the Wolf. And I probably got about maybe $25 into those 2 sights. I just sold this one online, the rear sight that came with this gun, for $30. So I'm actually making my money back right now, because I don't need it. I don't have another gun that I want to put it on. I actually have a couple of these around here spare as it is. But for $30, I've made my money back already on my sights. But shimming a sight is not that hard. You can also peen the bottom of it, but I could tell already that peening the bottom of this one was not going to be enough to make it sit where I needed to sit. and at least in there snug, and so it was going to be just better to shim that. And it's not a hard process. It just takes a little bit of time, a little bit of trial and error. Again, some shim stock like that, 1/10 of an inch. It might not be the same size when you do it. It depends on how big the dovetail is versus how big the sight is. And it's the same with the front and the rear. It doesn't matter. And it's a little bit usually trial and error. This one actually kind of worked out the first time with that thickness, but sometimes you'll have to cut a couple of them. But it's not a big deal. It's nothing really that hard to do. Again, if I can do it, you can do it. And just another part of the Hawken project, and hopefully we're just about done with this gun. I've got a couple more little things to do, and then this gun should be finished, and then hopefully in a week or so it'll be off to the range to see how it shoots. And with that, YouTube, have a good day.